How's it going, Crusaders? Welcome back to another sermon. Today we're checking out Jesus' Second Coming, Part 2. This will be the last video before the last video on the Jesus series, and that will be Jesus' suffering to finalize the Jesus series, which is probably the most important thing to look at because all of his suffering was done for us. So that is definitely something to think about, something to remember, and is something to always take with you. Of course, Marcus knew that I was making a video, so he wanted to be a part of it. Nonetheless, we're going to get started, starting off with watch for Christ's coming. So this is coming from Luke 17, verses 20 through 37. Jesus discusses the imminent arrival of God's kingdom, emphasizes its sudden and unexpected nature. Verse 21, the kingdom of God is in the midst of you, is how it is said in that verse. Jesus clarifies that the kingdom is not a future event to be anxiously awaited, but a present reality inaugurated in his own ministry and teachings. Verse 30, Jesus compares the arrival of the Son of Man to the suddenness of the flood and Lot's destruction, implying that it will be unexpected and come when people least expect it. Verse 32, this imagery is reminiscent of Lot's wife, emphasizing the importance of focusing on following Christ's call and not dwelling on worldly attachments or regrets. Verse 37, Jesus concludes by the likening of the Son of Man's return to the swift gathering of vultures over dead creatures, highlighting its sudden, visible, and widespread nature. The next thing we're going to look at, which is also coming from Luke, is be alert and ready. So this is Luke 21, verses 20 through 38. 20 through 38. And this focuses on Jesus' prophecies about the destruction of Jerusalem, the coming of the Son of Man, emphasizing the need for believers to be vigilant and ready for these events. Jesus predicts the Roman armies surrounding Jerusalem, leading to its destruction and the scattering of its inhabitants. He advises those in Judea to flee to the mountains when they see this happen. Jesus describes the coming signs, which is distress of nations, roaring sea, and the heavens that will precede the Son of Man's arrival in power and glory. Jesus uses the fig tree. He uses that quite a bit. If you haven't noticed that, he definitely uses this in a couple of different books, but Jesus uses the fig tree as an analogy, explaining that when these signs begin to appear, believers can know that the kingdom of God is near. Jesus urges his followers to believe vigilantly and not let their hearts be weighed down by worldly concerns, so they are not caught off guard by the day of judgment. The passage concludes with an encouraging note stating that when these events begin to unfold, believers should stand up and lift up their heads as their redemption is drawing near. The next thing we're going to check out is don't be deceived. This is coming from 2 Thessalonians 2, verses 1 through 7, where Paul addresses the Thessalonians believers' confusion about the timing of Christ's return, specifically their fear that the Lord has allowed to come. So verse 1 through 2, Paul urges the Thessalonians not to be easily shaken or troubled by claims that the day of the Lord has already arrived. He clarifies that his previous teachings about the day of the Lord is not to be misinterpreted as an immediate event. Verse 3, Paul wages them not to be deceived, stating that the day of the Lord will not come until a rebellion and the revelation of the man of lawlessness occur. Verse 4, the man of lawlessness is described as someone who opposes and exalts himself above every so-called God or object of worship, even being so far as to sit in God's temple, proclaiming himself to be God. Verse 5 through 7, Paul reminds them that when he was with them, he told them these things. He also reveals that there is something that is currently restraining the man of lawlessness from being revealed. Only when this restrainer is removed will the man of lawlessness be revealed. Bye, Bubba. The next thing we're going to check out is looking forward to Christ's return. So this is 2 Peter chapter 3, verses 1 through 16, and this focuses on the day of the Lord and the importance of living holy lives in light of Christ's return. I just want to pause for a second, Crusaders. I could easily not make this video until my son is distracted, and not have him in the video and make this as professional as I possibly could, but it's important for him to see what I'm doing. It's extremely important for him to be a part of this video, and he might not remember this, but I will. But in some sense, he's going to remember that I was making a video, looking at some notes, and when he dives into that and realizes what these notes were and what this video was about, hopefully that will encourage him to dive into a Bible study as well. Just wanted to throw that out there. I could easily make this video as nice and as perfect as I possibly wanted, but it's important to have my son in these videos when he wants to be a part of them, and same thing with my daughter. Anyways, some people mock the idea of Christ's return, questioning when it will happen. Peter reminds them that God previously judged the world with a flood, demonstrating his power to judge sin. He emphasizes that the day of the Lord will come unexpectedly, like a thief in the night, with destruction by fire. After the judgment, God will create new heavens and a new earth where the righteousness dwells. Believers are urged to live holy and godly lives, looking forward to and hasting the day of God. God's patience is not immediately judging for the salvation of those who believe, and not because he is slow or forgetful. Paul also mentions that in his letters, he's written about similar things, highlighting the consistency of the message across different apostles. Peter warns against those who twist the scriptures to their own destruction, emphasizing the importance of proper interpretation. The chapter concludes with a exhortation to grow in grace and knowledge of Jesus Christ and to be prepared for the Lord's return. Finally, the last thing I want to check out today is Jesus is coming, and this comes from Revelation, Crusaders. This is Revelation 22, verses 6 through 15, and this focuses on the certainty and imminence of Christ's return and the subsequent judgment. So, verses 6 through 7, the angel instructs John not to seal the words of the prophecy, emphasizing that the time is near. It also includes a statement about the consequence of righteous and unrighteous actions, indicating that judgment is coming. Verses 8 through 9, John attempts to worship the angel, but the angel directs him to worship God alone, emphasizing that the angel is a fellow servant. Verses 10 through 11 mentions that that those who do wrong will continue to do wrong, and those who are holy will continue to be holy. Verses 12 through 13, Jesus declares that he is coming quickly and will reward each person according to their deeds. He also identifying himself as the Alpha and Omega, the first and the last, the beginning and the end. And finally, verses 14 through 15, those who wash their robes will have the right to the true life and enter the city. Outside the city are those who are filthy, including sorcerers, the sexually immoral, murderers, adulterers, and anyone who loves and practices falsehood. Crusaders, that is it for Jesus' second coming. There's a lot of questions, there's a lot of speculations, there's a lot of ideas, thoughts, and things that people believe and say is going to happen when Jesus comes. People have an idea when he's going to return. Crusaders, Jesus himself says he doesn't know when that day is going to happen, that only God knows when it's going to happen. But I think the thing to take away from that is that if Jesus himself doesn't know when the return is, if the Bible doesn't tell us when his return is, ever since I was a little kid, people have always said, all this is happening, all that is happening, so the time of Jesus' second coming is near, because all of this stuff is talked about in the Bible. Crusader, there's a lot of stuff talked about in the Bible. But the thing to take away from this is what I'm getting at, is that if we don't know when the day is, if Jesus doesn't know when the day is, then we should always be ready. We should always be faithful. We should always be servants. We should always be crusaders, and we should always give our life to Jesus. Plain and simple. Encouraging those around us to have a relationship with Jesus. And there's a lot more to go into that about, but as I said, Crusaders, the final video will be on Jesus' suffering, and a very important subject, maybe the most important subject that is, I guess, someone's own personal decision on what the most important subject is when it comes to Jesus, but that's all I've got for today. I did talk to Arbor Heights, which is a halfway house. There's actually 2 of them, so once I get my schedule and once I figure out what I can do, I will be going there either Monday or Wednesday next week, Crusader, so be on the lookout for that. That's all I've got for today. Thanks, guys.